Okay, hello. This is the fourth lesson in a series of lectures I'm giving on how the United States is starting a new Cold War. All right. I'm not getting to the meat and bones of my lectures yet. This is still introduction. Okay. I'm still building up background information for you to better understand what I'm going to get to. All right. But today I'm going to introduce it briefly. I'm going to introduce a couple elements, one of which is how, although Russia is being built up to be this big enemy, big boogeyman, right? Russia is really a paper tiger. And I'm not going to explain it all, but I'll give you an outline of some of the elements I will be discussing. That's coming up in the future, way down the line. And then the second is Russia is being maneuvered by the United States to maneuver. So it's a classic get you again game. And again, I'm just going to introduce this. All right. I can't explain all the details yet. We'll get to it eventually. Okay. So at this point, I prove to you that I've proven with undeniable historical facts that are plain for anyone to see, right? That the USA is an extreme warmonger nation. I mean, extreme. Always fighting aggressive expansionist wars and starting these wars in clever, devious ways. All right. I showed you this yesterday. I'll just briefly review. All right. Even from the outset of white colonies in America, Jamestown, 1607. From then on, it's been constant war, right? Whenever you see red, that's with the Indians. I don't mean any racial thing by that, but that's just, all right. It's with the Indians. Constant war. Only rarely are there years without war. You see, it's every damn year it's a war, right? So there's a big chunk here. This is very extreme in our history. Rare to have that much, many years together. All right, now from the beginning of our nation, which you can say started in 1775, which was the real Declaration of Independence, when we went to war with England, right? It's been constant wars. You had the American Revolutionary War. Yeah, you could say this war is justified. All right. Why should we be England's slave? But pretty much all the rest of the wars were expansionist wars. Right? Anytime you see Indians, the Indians weren't attacking us, pushing us off into the ocean. We were always pushing in. Right? We started at Jamestown, one little tiny speck, no bigger than a football field. From there on, we kept expanding until we had the whole continent, and we kept going after that into overseas control of resources, overseas lands. Yeah, we weren't a big colonial nation, but we practiced a lot of neocolonialism. All right, you see, it's constant wars. All right, unending wars, and we start these wars. Mexican American War, U.S. started that war. All right, and then by the middle of the 19th century, it's many wars at the same time. Seven wars, six, seven, six, five, six, six, seven, eight, eight, eight. Right, we're fighting multiple wars. Don't tell me we're not a warmonger nation. Just on straight facts, which are undeniable. All right, you got to say we're a warmonger nation. So why is it that Americans across the board deny this? Right? I mean, the only way you can deny this is um, if you ever seen the old what was it? What show was it? Stalag 17. Anyways, what? Hold on. Oh yeah. Okay, I remember the old TV show Hogan's Heroes. They had this German sergeant, Sergeant Schultz, and he was always denying that he saw anything. He was like, "I see nothing. I hear nothing." I mean, that's what you got to do. You got to basically plug your ears, close your eyes, all right, and deny it. Or you got to be like those Mexican banditos in uh, Treasure Sierra Madre. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie. Maybe you can YouTube it. But there's a scene where these banditos approach the Americans. One of the guys is Humphrey Bogart, and what's his name, Dobbsy or something like that. Anyways, they come up to him, and then Humphrey Bogart kind of interrogates them. Hey, who are you? And they're like, us? We're federales. Federales. Let's see your badges. Badges? We don't need no stinking badges. It's like facts for the American who denies us. Facts? We don't need no stinking facts. Intelligence? We don't need no stinking intelligence. Honesty? We don't need no stinking honesty. That's the only way you can deny this. I mean, it's right in your face, undeniable facts. I don't know how people do it. All right, so I say, but this actual truth is directly opposite of popular, whacked out, delusional belief. I swear, nothing's further from the truth, which is based upon what? One, zero knowledge of the facts. They know nothing. They're the Sergeant Schultz, and they want to stay that way. Two, the self-serving crap people want to believe because that's what makes them feel good about themselves. It's all about self. That's human nature. Promote, please, right? Protect self. And then at three, it's about retarded social reality, right? Which is the greatest resource for people to believe what they want to believe. Because if they want something to believe and there's nothing to support it, all they got to do is get together and and agree with one another and reinforce each other, get that social reinforcement, and then they'll believe what they want to believe. Social reality is simple, stupid crap, packaged in 10-second blurbs you can read on your phone, written at a fourth grade level, which everyone is passing, and that alone makes idiots believe it, right? That alone is their truth and reality of it. The fact that everyone's saying it, which is a joke. It seems impossible that anyone is that stupid to believe this, but it applies to the vast majority of people. Retarded social reality is often just a simple, stupid, mocking joke, or it's one word reality like unbelievable, unreal. And then it'll be a cough or a whistle, right? I mean, that's it. But if people are determined to believe what they want to believe, you cannot fight that. If people want to remain ignorant, well, you can't download it into their head, right? If people are unintelligent and can't analyze, well, you can't give them a smart pill, or you can't perform surgery on their brain that's going to make them smart, right? It's not like flowers for Algernon, right? Where the guy's not as smart as a mouse, and then he gets surgery, and then he becomes a genius, all right? Things like that just doesn't happen. Now, given the United States' indisputable and extensive warmonger history, it should be no surprise that the U.S. power elite are cooking up a new Cold War. I mean, no one should be shocked by that. But will the masses have retained any of the facts I just taught? Oh, hell no. Only a few will, right? I mean, there's some people who will, or at least keep the main idea. Will the masses understand any of the many clever devices used by U.S. leaders to manufacture wars? Hell no, right? I just reviewed some of these, and I've taught these in great detail. Will people retain it? No. Therefore, it won't be real in their brains, which is the only reality they know. The only reality people know is the reality in their heads. People always say, I know reality. No, you only know the reality that's in your head, right? Because that's where knowing is. And they don't even know the nature of the word reality. They think, I know what reality is. So what will dominate their minds? Simple, stupid social reality waves, which have no basis in facts or intelligent analysis, but which dominate the minds of the masses, so they'll deny it. Well, I don't fall for that. But the fact is, the masses fall for social reality every single time, and they won't stop. I've taught social reality thousands and thousands of times, and it doesn't matter. 10 seconds later, they're going to their phones. Oh, what's everyone saying about this? Okay, that's what's real because everyone's saying it. All right. So power elite. I want to review the power elite really quickly. I don't want to go into a lot of detail again. I've shown you this many times. I don't know, a couple dozen times at least I've shown you this. So I just proved to you with simple, straightforward historical facts that cannot be denied. You can't say that didn't happen. That the USA is a warmonger nation. Many times I've shown you how the power elite has started many of these wars. A key element of the power elite are the bonesmen. Now, the knee-jerk response by half-wits is going to be, "Oh, that's secret society talk. That's conspiracy theory." No, it's simply a power club, a group, a power group. All right. A huge part of sociology is a study and analysis of groups, group behavior, group formation. Right? People form groups. That's just the way it is. We're social people. Right? All right. So, as you recall from this chart, every time you see gray, that's bonesmen. All right. And we start with World War One, which I call the start of the military-industrial complex. All right. Now, I've taught you many times the Industrial Revolution. I gave you a very, convenient one-page chart of the evolution of the Industrial Revolution, going through 7 different stages. All right. Beginning with textiles. In that, I showed you that about the 1830s was the first application of industrial machine manufacturing to weapons manufacturing, right? So that's way back. That's 1830s. World War One is 1814, 1818 or so, right? So even though it happened, the first war to really apply industrial manufacturing was really the Civil War. I mean, maybe Crimean War, right? But more so than the U.S. Civil War. U.S. led the way in industrial production of weapons, right? But the war, which really saw the formation of the military-industrial complex, the people involved here, and the mountains of wealth that can be made off of weapons production and warfare, was World War One. And some key players here were bonesmen, these bonesmen here, but also down here, key people on the War Industries boards for the United States. Samuel P. Bush, who's the father of Prescott Bush, who's the father of George H.W. Bush, who's the father of George W. Bush, right? Robert Lovett, who was a bonesman, and he was also the architect of the Cold War, and he was mentor to McGeorge Bundy, who wrote the 30-day plan to get the Vietnam War. Hope you remember all this stuff. And John Foster Dulles, who was Secretary of State, and he was also the sole managing partner of Sullivan Cromwell Bank, law firm, which was a law firm that supported these big power elite companies. Law firm for Brown Brothers Harriman, and he was a law firm for example, United Fruit, right? And they conducted a lot of neocolonialism, going overseas, controlling the land and resources, making deals with dictators, getting concessions with dictators. He's the main law firm there, right? And he's on the War Industries Board. Okay, so key players here were these bonesmen: Prescott Bush, Averill Harriman, Roland Harriman, on down the line here. They were partners in Brown Brothers Harriman Bank, right? An important bank here. All right. Let's see here. I think Neil Mallon may, and Ellery James may also have been. Oh no, he's well. Okay. D. All right. E. Where's E? Oh, E. So Brown Brothers Harriman Bank is the largest private investment bank in the U.S. At least it was back then. think it's one of the largest still today. EF. All right, now this bank is important, including the Union Banking Corporation, which was Prescott Bush's bank. Both Brown Brothers Harriman Bank and Union Banking Corporation financed Hitler and the Nazi Party and helped build the Nazi war industries. Now, even after we went to war with Germany in December 1941, four Bush Harriman corporations, including banks, steel companies, mining companies, continued their German operations until FDR shut them down in November 1942. So what does that mean, right? Not only did they help bring Hitler and the Nazi party to power, right? They're trading with their enemy for a full year, almost a full year after we're at war with them, right? I mean, that's treasonable. Honestly, that should be capital punishment stuff. But no, right? It's about power. So they played a role in getting World War II. I mean, the main role was Hitler, right? Hitler was the chief guy there, right? But they played a part. You can't say them. Now, other wars, they were totally behind it. All right, so who was the lawyer for that bank? John Foster Dulles says Sullivan Cromwell Law Firm. All right. Now, who were the Dulles brothers? Well, Allen Dulles was the director of the CIA during the Guatemala coup and the Iran coup. They drove that. John Foster Dulles was Secretary of State, right? And those guys were brothers, and they were nephews for Robert Lansing. Now, Robert Lansing was a key guy that got us into World War One. He wrote the key documents, including, do you remember I told you how the Germans had requested that the Wilson administration issue a warning to Americans not to travel aboard the Lusitania? Well, Robert Lansing wrote a rejection of that, the refusal of that. And he wrote about that in his memoirs. I read his memoirs, right? He was bragging about it, how clever it was, how he wrote it for public consumption. I mean, that's a word to use. I wrote it for public consumption. All right. Now, these guys conducted the Iran coup, the Guatemala coup, Bay of Pigs invasion of Cuba. All right. Let's see. EFGHIJ. All right. So next I want to talk about is Robert Lovett. Right. He's this guy here. He's a full partner in Brown Brothers Harriman. He was on the War Industries Board. He also becomes the architect of the Cold War, starting in 1947, right after World War II. Right on the heels of World War II, we're going into a new war. He's also mentor to McGeorge Bundy, right? Who's McGeorge Bundy? McGeorge Bundy here. He's the guy that wrote the 30-day plan that manufactured the Gulf of Tonkin incident, from which they got the Gulf of Tonkin resolution, which became the hot little ticket for war in Vietnam. His brother also played an instrumental role. He was William Bundy. Both of them were bonesmen. You see how these bonesmen are involved? Right? LMNO. So they gave us the Vietnam War. Right? I showed you how that was cooked up. And then Averill Harriman was really the linchpin of this gang. Right? It was his bank here, Brown Brothers Harriman Bank. He was ambassador to the USSR during World War II and for a year afterward, right? But key role he got was he volunteered to be the Assistant Secretary of State for Far East Affairs, 1961 to 63, right? He was running the show in Southeast Asia. And then he was acting Secretary of State leading up to the Tonkin incident. Now, according to this Marine Corps Colonel William Corson, right? By 1963, Harriman was running Vietnam, quote Vietnam, without consulting the president or the attorney general. That was Robert F. Kennedy. Now, I read the documents. I read every damn document in foreign relations of the United States for 1963 and 1964 for Southeast Asia, right? And Harriman's name keeps coming up. Oh, we got to get Averill to approve this, right? We got to pass this by Averill. Averill was running the show. Um, he was also a key player in the DM coup. Right? MLPQ. All right, now who was a big beneficiary as far as contracts for the Vietnam War? Root Brown Corporation. All right. And Brown was a company that basically made LBJ, and LBJ got contracts for Root Brown. Right. This was a mutual relationship here. Financed LBJ's political campaign. Right. And LBJ got them a lot of benefits there, including was it the Mansfield Dam um, contract. All right. QRS. All right. So, and then that's the Vietnam War. Then, really, our next war after that was the Gulf War One. Who gave us that? Bush number one. Bush President one. George Herbert Walker Bush. Right? Uh, QRST. Gave us the first Gulf War. All right. Now, I taught you how the first Gulf War came about. It wasn't simply Saddam Hussein woke up one day, scratched his ass, right, went to the toilet and said, oh, while he's sitting on the toilet, I got a good idea. I'm going to go invade Kuwait, right? Kuwait was overproducing with U.S. Overproducing oil beyond OPEC quotas with U.S. backing. And then Saddam Hussein multiple times, 3 times, at least 3 times. I know 3 times. He warned them, hey, you better stop overproducing because you're killing us, right? Right? I'm going to invade your butts. He warns them 3 times of military action. And then he puts a 100,000 man army on Kuwait's border. Next day, Margaret Tutwiler, yeah, that's who it was. Okay. Next day, the spokesperson for the State Department, Margaret Tutwiler, says in a press conference, right? The U.S. has no defense treaty with Kuwait, nor do we have any defense or security commitment to Kuwait. Now, why the hell do you say that at any time? You never even go out and say it. There's no point in saying that, ever. Why do you say that after multiple threats of invasion by Saddam Hussein, and then he puts 1,000 man army on the border? That's it. That's 10 army divisions, right? And then there's 2 more green lights. We give 3 green lights, right? That was a setup, a sucker move to get Saddam to go in. And the key thing there was to bust OPEC. It busted OPEC for almost a decade. 9 years OPEC was busted by this war, right? And that brought down oil prices. And through that, the U.S. regained control of oil prices indirectly through war in the Middle East, right? So who was Bush? T.U. Bush was director of the CIA before. Were they cooking plans like this? I mean, I don't know. I'm speculating that they have plans like this. I'm sure. But anyways, but he was an oil expert, right? Bush was an oil man. Now, I read through all the articles in the New York Times, every single damn one of them on oil around the Gulf War time. And then I read every OPEC article for about a 13-year period. More than 13 years. It was like from 89, 90 to about 2002, 2003, right? Anyways, during the time of the Gulf War, first Gulf War, the oil experts and economists were all saying that this is going to destroy OPEC. OPEC's going to be flat on its back for a long time, and this is going to give control of oil price to the U.S. All right, and all of this happened. It was no shock. It was no surprise. Nothing complex. It's common sense, right? We all saw it, and it happened just like I said, right? And a key way of making it happen was Bush got the Saudis. Bush number one. He got the Saudis to pay 60% of the American war bill, right? We had a $60 billion bill for the war. Got the Saudis to pay $36 billion. That's a big chunk of change, right? Plus, they made big weapons purchases as a result of the war. They beefed up their defenses, buying all sorts of aircraft tanks. They bought F-15s, right? I'm sure they bought all sorts of other things. They bought a lot of tanks. I think they bought M1, and they also bought British Challenger tanks. I know they bought British Challengers, right? What does that mean? That means that's a lot of debt. That debt is leverage, right? Right. That debt means we got to keep pumping out oil, and that was a key to busting OPEC, breaking unity. You break out Saudi Arabia and Kuwait with massive debt, and they got to keep pumping out oil. They can't keep to the OPEC agreement of production limitations, right? And that busts unity within OPEC. It's divide and conquer. All right, UVW. Where's W here? W. Okay. So who was a big, just like during the Vietnam War, big beneficiary as far as a commercial contractor was Root Brown. Well, the big one in the first Gulf War was Halliburton. They were making a killing, right? No big contracts, huge, way overcharging. Now, where did Halliburton come from? Halliburton came from Root Brown, right? And who's handing out the contracts? Dick Cheney. See, I say WXY. Okay, so Halliburton, not at this point. I'm jumping ahead of myself, but after the first Gulf War, Halliburton was merged with Dresser. So Dresser and Halliburton were together. Cheney oversaw that when he's CEO of Halliburton, right? And who owns Dresser Industries? Brown Brothers Harriman Bank, all right? Well, isn't that damn convenient, all right? So Cheney was Secretary of Defense at the time. He's handing out the big contracts to Halliburton, all right? And then after the first Gulf War, he's made CEO of Halliburton, and then he's the vice president during the second Gulf War, all right? Okay, XYZA. So now I taught you, I showed you how the first Gulf War was the basis for the war on terror, because the 9/11 attacks by bin Laden were motivated by about 6 things that really pissed him off. And all those, except for U.S. support for Israel, right? Which, came before the first Gulf War. That's been there for a while, right? But everything else, right? All as a result of the first Gulf War, including the death of those 567,000 Iraqi kids who died as a result of the sanctions due to the WMD inspections, right? And we're playing dirty games with these WMD inspections. I taught you that from Scott Ritter's book. While these kids are dying, we're playing dirty games with it. And it's pissing off bin Laden, right? The media tells you, oh, he hates Christians. He hates the infidels. Oh, bullshit. He never mentions that once, right? He's griping about crap the U.S. does, right? Taking their oil, right? Wars in their countries. He's pissed at us. So this gives us the war on terror. Gives us a 9/11 attack, war on terror, right? Then Bush number 2 is elected president, right? He takes the 9/11 attack by Al Qaeda, flips it with a bait and switch onto Iraq, right? And they do a manipulation, which I explained to you. I can't teach you all that again. And then we get the Gulf War II, the Iraq invasion war, right? Now, in this war, who are the big beneficiaries? Halliburton again, Halliburton number 1, but also now you got all sorts of other contractors. You have these private military security contractors like KBR, like Blackwater, right? Who owns KBR? Halliburton. Who owns Halliburton? Dresser Industries. Who owns Dresser Industries? Brown Brothers Harriman. All right. So was this a good war? Was this a necessary war? Or did this war create a lot more terrorism? Did it destabilize the Middle East? Did it pour gasoline on the Sunni Shia sectarian violence? Not just in Iraq, but throughout the region, right? All right, creating ISIS. Now we got to a much bigger problem than just Al Qaeda. They have a state. They have the resources of a state. So they had to be defeated. They're especially crazy. They were extremely radical. And, I'm saying a big part of the radical was the fact that ISIS was formed in U.S. detention centers in Iraq, which were led by the Bush policy on humiliation and torture. Humiliation is perfectly fine. Use as much of that as you want. It's good, right? And their policy said there's no torture unless they die or their organs fail, and then they die. All right, Nothing's torture unless they die. So yeah, I didn't know. And if they die, everyone gets off because you got to prove that you intended that they die, which you can't do. So it's like, go ahead, you do everything you want. Everything's legal because nothing's torture. And if they die and it's torture, well, the only time it's torture is if they die. But if they die, that's okay because you got to prove that you did it intentionally. You can't do that. All right. EF. Okay. So what are the common denominators here? These guys started big, big wars. Right? They're all bonesmen, starting wars. Banking, common denominator. Military industry. Oil. These neocons are running, the neocons are the power elite's henchmen. Right? All right, so now what I want to do next is a brief summary of methods used by the power elite liars to manipulate Congress and the masses into supporting wars. I mean, these methods are used over and over and over again. Now, I know, I was in the library when I was writing this, and, a lot of people read what I write as I write it, and then they attack you with their coughs and their whistles. It was like a wave of coughs and whistles, right? You think they know any of the historical facts here? They know nothing about these methods. They understand nothing. They know nothing. They know nothing of the uses. They know nothing about the history of this, right? But they're going to attack. And why can they attack? Because they know nothing, right? I don't know that. Therefore, that's not for real. All right, so the first method here I want to mention here is multiple cognitive framework games. I'm not going to explain that all again. And then get you again games. Right? This is games that are done all the time. And then example is a 30-day plan, list of time threat signals. They time these, right? They space them out, right? Time them right before a major incident. You give a bunch of threat signals. Remember Vietnam? They have two groups, mid-June and mid-July, right? Then you have attacks in late July, early August, actual attacks. You set them up. You get them all afraid, and then you start whacking them. Of course, the attacks are covert, so Americans don't know about it. So yeah, you have timed threat signals sent to provoke a reaction, which is then portrayed as aggression. When they react defensively, you portray that as aggression out of the blue. What? I don't know why they did this. Then you have actual attacks on them. You have naval blockades. Remember Spanish-American War, naval blockade of Cuba, seizing Spanish ships, 5 ships. And other acts of war. You commit all sorts of acts of wars, attacks, bombing islands, air attacks in Vietnam, right? Setting up the Gulf of Tonkin incident. And the purpose is to provoke a reaction, right? You're whacking, they're going to react, right? Either out of defense or anger or whatever. Manufactured incidents jeopardizing lives of Americans to trick Americans into war. So many times we've manufactured detonators. Got someone to attack us, right? You put their lives at risk. Maybe they'll die, maybe they won't. A lot of them did die. Remember I told you how Pearl Harbor, I said in the final conclusion, Not only did the FDR administration fully know the attack is coming, knowing that the whole Southern Fleet and Northern Fleet had gotten underway, right? On the day, which was their deadline, which we knew from 7 messages, we knew it's coming. Not only do we know it's coming, but we intentionally maneuvered them into attacking us. I mean, Stimson said that. Said, yeah, we maneuvered them into attacking us. Right? And then he said, basically they left the door open, and we did through a number of acts, right? Getting the carriers out, shifting all commercial shipping through the Straits of Torres, right? We opened the door for their attack, all right? And then what? 2,400 American sailors died. All right, what was that? Uh, Jeopardizing lives of Americans. Now Pearl Harbor is the one time when I'm thinking, okay, we had to do something. All right, that was a bad situation. But that's like a rare case there. Fait accompli. I mean, Pearl Harbor itself was a fait accompli. Remember the Slidell fait accompli during the Mexican-American War? I hope you remember. A lot of people are like, what? That means nothing. You're lying because that means nothing to me. I don't know anything about that. God, you can't keep teaching this stuff. Manufactured false evidence. WMD. You know, all the crap they made up. Mobile biological weapons manufacturer. Aluminum tubes. Yellow cake. All the bullshit. Iraq is giving WMD training to Al Qaeda. All bullshit. They're making up crap. Manufactured intelligence reports. Right? I mean, this was done in Vietnam. This was seriously done in the Iraq invasion war. There's 7 manufactured intelligence reports. They're jamming them, right? You know, I mean, anyone with intelligence by now ought to know, because I've taught this so many times, ought to know that whenever they release an intelligence report, it's timed and it's not meant to educate you, it's meant to manipulate you. They got some cooked up evidence they're sending to manipulate you. Then you conduct an extensive propaganda campaign, painting the desired enemy as evil, as devious, as wicked, as threatening, as predatory, as wanting to steal our stuff and hating our freedom. I mean, this really hits home here, right? Because what do people are? My stuff. I swear, people are so materialistic. And then my freedom, right? Freedom, man. You know, it's not about morality, right? And then pumped up patriotism, playing on the human tendency to promote self, ego, pride. At its core, that's what patriotism is all about. It's me, my country, my ego, my pride, right? And that is powerful. That is why people believe what they want to believe. That's why people are Sergeant Schultz. I hear nothing, I see nothing, right? You're unbelievable. Why? Because that's what I know. Everyone's saying so too. That's the truth. Social reality. What do I talk about social reality? Social reality is passed in waves and has about the same factual complexity of a stadium wave. You know, any idiot can stand up and raise their hand. That's it, right? You know, I mean, that's as complex as social reality gets. But it dominates mass beliefs nonetheless, right? All right. Uh, Emotions. That's another thing they play upon. Xenophobia, hate, especially fear. In fact, people fall for fear mongering every time. Every time it's used, they fall for it. You name it. Remember, I told you that's why they pumped up. Oh, the North has got to free the slaves. The North is going to free the slaves. It's fear mongering. There's no movement to free the slaves. There's no even will to free the slaves. All right. Uh, that's why. I mean, even when the 13th Amendment was passed, it only passed by 2 votes. That's only northern states. The North itself barely wanted it passed. And that's with Lincoln buying votes and twisting arms. That is why every war needs an enemy, right? for fear. Right? And in this new Cold War, Russia is being portrayed as the principal enemy, the principal big bad boogeyman. Right? But in reality, Russia is a paper tiger. Right? Russia is a joke militarily. I'm serious, a joke. In terms of military budget, we'll see that. I'll show you all this stuff. I'm not going to teach you right now the details here. I'm just giving you a first-time exposure. Which you're not going to remember. Long history of horrible military performance. I'll teach you that. Poor material readiness. I'll teach this. Their stuff is breaking down, right? There's so much. The logistics system is bad. The logistics system is like Halliburton, logistical support, right? 10 times worse, and that's bad as it is. Inferior weapons technology, long history of military corruption, unprofessional military force structure with 75% of the manpower based in 1-year conscripts, repeated history of failed wars igniting internal revolutions. I mean, over and over. Lose war, revolution, Russo-Japanese War, World War One, Afghan War was a factor in the dissolution of the Soviet Empire. Internal separatist threats. I mean, they're vulnerable to that. Break away from within. For example, the Caucasus, which I say is a soft underbelly. Right? Putin knows this. He knows that if they embark upon some protracted, adventuristic military campaign, major operation like invading Ukraine, to take all of Ukraine, not just supporting rebels in the east, right? Some major operation there. You know that the first thing the Chechens are going to do is jump on a chance for independence. They're going to declare independence, all right? They're going to make a big independence move. And is that important? Well, yeah. That whole area is strategic. That whole area is gas and oil pipelines. In fact, there's gas and oil pipelines going through Chechnya. All right? You think Russia can afford that? All right. So next thing is Russia's going to be immediately hit by sanctions, and they'll lose trade and revenues. Right? They're going to be hit in the billfold there. That's what matters to them. And nothing around Russia is worth taking. Right? Nothing in the West. The only thing we're taking is in the Far East, like Japan, South Korea, and China, and they're military superior to them, Russia. Right? Plus, there would be long, vulnerable lines of communication, either across land, on train, or oceans even far longer, right? And each of those would be wide open and vulnerable to attack and being severed, right? And then also in some of the cases like Japan, South Korea, I mean, South Korea is connected to North Korea, but they got to go through China, they got to go to North Korea to do that. So they're going to attack South Korea. It's going to have to be an amphibious operation, right? For which Russia lacks amphibious lift capacity, and this is going to be in their backyard. Everything that they send in an amphibious operation is going to be sunk. It's going to be in the bottom of the ocean. All their soldiers are going to drown. Right? I mean, just look at Japan alone. Japan has got a significant submarine fleet. They got 22 very capable diesel electric boats. Very quiet. I mean, like whisper quiet. And the new ones have these lithium batteries, right? They're just going to sink all their stuff, right? Lines of communication, they're going to get whacked for the air, right? Plus Russian logistics. Are you kidding me? Their trucks are all breaking down. They have a hodgepodge, junkyard full of trucks. They have no logistical repair part supply system, right? What happened just in their invasion of Georgia? All the truck breakdowns, the failure to get ammunition to the front, the miscommunication, the lack of communication between different forces, the lack of air support for ground forces, on and on. I mean, they're horrible. So I'm not saying Russia is a good guy. I'm saying Russia is a weak, right? They're being grossly over-exaggerated in terms of capability and, more importantly, intentions. Intentions are a combination of both capability, what you can do, what they know they can do, and what is their worth taking. What is their worth? There's nothing. What do you take a Baltic state? You take Estonia, Latvia. Man, look at Estonia. Estonia's got a GDP of 40 billion. Right? Hell, give Tesla a few years, they'll be making more a year than the whole damn country of Estonia. Right? There's no resources there. Belarus is kind of connected. They were always traditionally connected to the hip with Russia after they broke up. Now it's the last remaining Western country in their pocket. All right, that's been broken away. That's shifting towards the West. They're buying U.S. oil when they can get oil pumped straight from Russian pipelines. They're buying U.S. oil that's shipped in tankers overseas. And what does that tell you? Right? When they can buy cheap Russian oil. Belarus is being cut away from them. What else? What are they going to have left? Armenia. I'm serious. That's about it. I think you'd have Armenia left. All right. You think Russia's expanding? Russia is being cut away everywhere. Russia's being pushed against the wall. Big Russian threat. Come on. It's crazy. Only a person who knows nothing. Well, that's like 99.9999999%. I swear. 99.9999999% of people know nothing about what's going on. Right? They'll just hear some bullshit in the news. Oh, Russia's a military big threat. And that's it. And then if that's passed in social reality, oh, well, it's definitely real in their brains. Based on what? Nothing. All right. So, nothing worth taking. I'm not going to explain it. I'll show you. I'll show you the GDPs of the countries around them. Right? I'll show you the resources of the countries around them. It's like, what? U.S. government officials and media portray Russia's actions as aggressive and expansionist, but really they're defensive moves. The U.S. screams expansionism, but in reality, I mean, it can't expand. Russia can't expand. But in reality, the U.S. is encroaching upon and threatening Russia. And when Russia desperately scrambles to hang on to something, we point the finger and scream, see, they're aggressively expanding. They're aggressively trying to rebuild the old glorious days of their Russian Empire. Right? That's what is really being passed by U.S. politicians. Even some military leaders. I don't know if Petraeus was saying that crap. He's more politician than military man. The U.S. is jabbing and poking Russia, forcing them to react. Essentially, Russia is being maneuvered by the USA to maneuver through 1, threats of NATO expansion, 2, U.S. unilateral abrogation of the ABM Treaty, 3, flipping client states in the Middle East, 4, we got plans to do that. We have plans to overthrow 7 ex-Soviet Russian client states in 5 years. 5, manufacturing wars. Do we not manufacture the Iraq invasion war, which flipped Iraq from being a Russian client to a U.S. client? Where does Iraq get his weapons now? USA. All right. 7, government destabilization, pro-democracy NGOs, both in Russia and in neighboring states like Ukraine. Right? And that's fueled by plenty of money. For example, Victoria Nuland is on YouTube saying, right, we have given $5 billion to help Ukraine attain their European aspirations. Right? So a lot of people are going to attack, well, that means nothing. What are you talking about? That means pro-West. Right? That means movement towards the West. What does that mean? That's movement away from Russia. That's cutting them away from Russia, right? Tying them to the West, which happened. And which caused Russia to take Crimea before all the military bases there are lost to a possible NATO Ukraine. Right? You get a pro-West government in power in Ukraine, that increases the chances of NATO membership for Ukraine. 7, threatening Russia's gas sales to Europe by attacking the pipelines with sanctions, along with promoting non-Russian alternatives gas supplies. Now, I got no problem with developing non-Russian gas. I mean, that's fair and square business practice, right? But when you get Economic sanctions, that's borderline mercantilism, right? When you're playing this national sanction stuff, right? I don't mind fair and square economic competition. That's good. Right, and U.S. neocons are pushing this aggression. Popular perceptions that Russia is the instigator are far from reality. Russia is weak. Russia is reacting. Russia is scrambling on its heels, being pushed and shoved back, right, and then trying to hang on to things. I'll explain this in examples of like the whole invasion of Georgia. I'll explain the whole Russian seizure of Crimea. Uh, Popular. Okay, wait. And historically, Russia is not expanding. Russia's contracting. The U.S. is pushing Russia onto its heels, goading and threatening, forcing Russia to react. And when Russia scrambles defensively, the U.S. screams aggressor, expansionist, right? They're lusting to build the glorious Russian Empire. Oh, bullshit. That's such a joke. It's a classic get you again game. But this is creating a new Cold War that justifies, in large part, a $1 trillion nuclear weapons program, which is going to be a big moneymaker. I mean, in part, people are going to say, well, yeah, some of these weapons are old. Okay, right? But it's driving big buildup of nuclear weapons here. The whole big revamping. And new aircraft. Um, there's going to, the whole new, was it the B-21 bomber? That's coming out. Uh, with non-competitive profit margins. All right. I mean, it's not just going to be nuclear; it's going to be conventional, also arms race, and it's going to be non-competitive. I mean, look at this is a thermonuclear bomb. You think there's a competitive market for this? Can you go shopping to like China, Japan, whatever, Taiwan? Hey, we go buy nuclear. Right? You don't buy these at Walmart, right? And the profits are going to go to well-positioned people. When this is going to be a drain on resources that are much better spent on enhancing U.S. commercial competitiveness, fueling economic growth in a clean energy economy. All right, that's what we got to do. Do things to boost our commercial competitiveness. Help our companies. Right. Promote technology advancement in commercial products. Uh, Now, a new Cold War will be an immense moneymaker that could be milked for decades through an artificial war urgency, through manufacturing an artificial threat, accelerating research and development, and weapon system replacement. I told you how that works, which is consumption, and better than consumption if you sell the old weapons. And this could be milked for perhaps 4 decades, just like the first Cold War, over 40 years. Every war needs an enemy, a boogeyman. And Russia's being manufactured in the public mind, U.S. public mind, as a principal boogeyman, but also China and to a lesser degree, Iran and North Korea. However, Russia is a phony threat in terms of one, expansionism. Russia's not expanding. Russia's contracting all around it. It's being shoved back, including now Belarus. All right. Honestly, Russia's only going to have Armenia, which is a joke. Let me see if I can pick up a map of Armenia. All right. Here's Russia. All right. This is not a scale map. This is a flat map. It's not a spherical map. So this is bigger than what it really is. But Russia looks pretty damn big. Most of this is like wasteland steppes, right? Frozen stuff. It's not frozen anymore. Got huge forest fires out here in Siberia, right? When they never had. Um, there's no global warming though, right? Here's Belarus. They're losing Belarus. They lost Ukraine already, right? It's pro-West government in there, right? Here's Armenia. There's Georgia. There's Azerbaijan. Armenia. Look at it. What do they got now? Armenia. What is Armenia worth? right? Russia didn't have scraps even, right? Aggression. They're really being defensive now. You'll see that as we go. Military capacity. They're a paper tiger. Economic threat. This is a gross exaggeration. But no matter how phony this stuff is, it's going to create a real phony war, right? I say real phony war because the term phony war about the early stage of World War II. After the invasion of Poland to the invasion in Europe, right? How it was basically a quiet time. They say phony war. No, it's only because weather was bad. Hitler wanted to invade right away Western Europe in the fall, all right, and winter, and weather got bad, and then for once Hitler listened to his generals and said, no, 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 wait till the spring, right? That's why there's a phony war. It wasn't a real phony war. That was a real war coming on, and if anyone said it was phony, they didn't know what the hell was happening there. But this is going to be a real phony war, fake war. But there's going to be real profits, and there's going to be real suffering, especially in the fringes, the proxy wars, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Iran, where the fighting's done on this side. This is where the people really suffer and die, right? There's a very little chance of direct military confrontation, especially on a large scale. There could be some bombing strike where there's collateral damage, some Russian forces get killed or whatever, probably like private military security contractors, like they use private military security contractors in Syria. Why? Because they don't. There's only way you're going to get them in the fight. You got to pay them a bunch of money. All right. So yeah, there's going to be real suffering now. No one should be surprised that the USA is cooking up another war, given the USA's long history of starting wars by manipulating the perceptions of the masses. The only way you can disbelieve this is if you're Sergeant Schultz. Shove your fingers in your ears, close your eyes. I see nothing. I hear nothing. Or be like, the banditos in Treasure Sierra Madre. Facts? We don't need no stinking facts. Honesty? We don't need no stinking honesty. I swear. That's no joke. Right? I'm being kind of facetious, but that's no joke. But that's what people do. They won't know squat for facts. Right? USA, straight up, undeniable history. We're always fighting wars. Non-stop wars. I've asked people recently, a lot of people, is the USA, if you had a choice between USA being a peace-loving nation and a warmonger nation, about half the people say this, oh, peace-loving, yeah, right? And then honestly, about half the people say, well, we used to be peace-loving, but I don't know about today. Man, people only say that because they don't know our history. There's been non-stop wars throughout our history. They've all been expansionist wars, pretty much, right? The rare case, you got the Barbie damn pirates attacking our commerce, right? You got French messing with us, right? Of course, we're trading with our enemy, but Russian action reaction. Yeah, I say action react. Is it really action or is it reaction, right? That's the get you again. The get you to start it, so it's get you again. Is the U.S. instigation, but no one sees this. Americans don't look at this. So in 2008, Russia invaded Georgia, but then they backed out right away after 11 days, after they got Georgia to agree to guarantee they won't join NATO, right? Well, what triggered that? The U.S. threat to Russia, pushing NATO expansion to Ukraine and Georgia, all right? I'll explain this in greater detail. Russian threat to European energy security, right? Exaggerated. But there's real U.S. threat to Russian natural gas sales. I think Russia is more vulnerable with its natural gas dependence on natural gas sales than Europe is vulnerable to Russian gas, right? It's about options, right? Russian violation of the INF Treaty. Oh, they're fueling the arms race because they're starting to build intermediate nuclear missiles again, right? Well, what triggered this? U.S. unilateral abrogation of the ABM treaty for bogus reasons. It destroyed the balance, nuclear balance with Russia. 2014 annexation of Crimea. Well, the key trigger there was the Maidan Revolution, and then the pro-Western government stealing power, coming to power, right? That increasing the risk that Ukraine joined NATO. So Putin says, well, we better make the move and secure Crimea. Why? That's all the Russian military bases in the Black Sea. That Crimea is the key strategic strong point on the Black Sea. That's why Russia has all the military bases there. They lose Ukraine to NATO, they lose Crimea to the military bases, right? That's why he took that, right? And U.S. has been supporting pro-Western movements in Ukraine. We're interfering in their politics. We got NGOs there spending $5 billion, right? Don't say our hands are clean. Russia meddling in 2016 election. Yeah, they did that. The scumbags. They should screw their politics. But wait a minute. We're meddling in Russian politics. We got pro-democracy NGOs, which are what? Overthrow destabilization units, right? In Russia. And then Hillary's going to run. I can't stand Hillary. I voted for her because I was more afraid of Trump. And that came to be true. It's scary how Trump is a threat to our institutions. So Hillary was a Russia basher. I'm thinking, man, Hillary's so establishment, right? She'd be at the front lines pushing this new Cold War. She'd be the Cold War princess, right? But I voted for her. Why? The least of two evils. Question. The media and politicians are hyping the big Russian threat with Russia's meddling in U.S. elections, right? They're making a big deal of this. Oh, Russia's so scary, right? But is that a sign of strength or is that a sign of weakness? Like, that's the best Russia can do against us. That's all they can do against us. You think they can do anything militarily against us? Plus, is it offensive or is it defensive? If you got Hillary, doing Russia bashing, right? Man, right? You don't want her in. If you're Russian, you don't want her in. You'd rather have, Trump in, who is like, Trump will kiss your ass. He's a Russian ass kisser, right? I'm serious. Why? Because who runs Russia? The oligarchs, right? What do they own? They own the oil and gas, right? They got money, right? And I'm sure Trump wants business deals in Russia. He wants to get a Trump Tower in Moscow. He was pushing for that. Anyways, if I get big loans from these guys. All right, so I say, where's the biggest threat to American institutions, to our principles, to our values, our democracy, right? To justice, right? Just our basic values, right? That we don't support neo-Nazi white supremacist groups. That we don't whack peaceful protests, right? I mean, I'm totally law and order guy, right? But I'm total freedom of press, right? Constitutional rights, First Amendment rights, right? So is it, Russia's like a minimal, did not exist an external threat. The real threats come from within. I'm telling you, it's a subversive internal threat threatening our institutions, our base values, if you could take a picture of the ghost of George Washington, his hair would be standing on end and be screaming. Review. So the USA has a long warmonger history. You cannot deny that. But people will. Why? Because they're all Sergeant Schultz. They're all Mexican banditos from Treasure Sierra Madre. Right? They believe what they want to believe. And they'll get the support from social reality. Everyone's saying it. All right? I told you about the power elite starting wars. We start wars all. I told you how these guys were key to starting wars. And I told you the methods of starting wars. I just reviewed a list. I mean, you know, I taught you so much in detail all these, right? If you don't remember it, I can't teach you again. I can't keep teaching this stuff over and over again. Um, and then I taught you how Russia's being made into a bogus new boogeyman, right? And it's going to give us a Cold War. But even though it's bogus, right, there's going to be real profits involved, and there's going to be real suffering, right? There's not going to be major confrontation, conventional warfare between superpowers here, right? Right? It's going to be a Cold War, but you know where the blood's going to be spilled? In the fringe proxy wars, right? Uh, that's where they're all spilled. Okay, all right, that's it.